How to live with intention every day. A practical guide to mindful habits, purposeful decisions, and intentional daily living for personal growth and fulfillment. By T.M. Light. Description: Unlock the power of intentional living with this transformative guide. It teaches readers how to define their values, create a meaningful life vision, and align daily habits with long-term purpose. Learn to design mornings and evenings that foster focus, set boundaries that protect your energy, and cultivate mindfulness for clarity and presence. Navigate setbacks with resilience and reclaim control over your choices. Perfect for anyone seeking personal growth, productivity, and fulfillment, this practical roadmap empowers you to become the architect of your life, turning conscious daily decisions into lasting transformation. Chapter Outline. Introduction: The power of choosing your life on purpose. Chapter 1: Defining what intention really means. Chapter 2: Clarifying your core values. Chapter 3: Creating a vision for your life. Chapter 4: Aligning daily habits with long-term purpose. Chapter 5: Designing intentional mornings and evenings. Chapter 6: Mastering focus in a distracted world. Chapter 7: Setting boundaries that protect your energy. Chapter 8: Cultivating mindfulness and presence. Chapter 9: Navigating setbacks with purpose. Chapter 10: Becoming the architect of your days. Conclusion: A life built on conscious choices. Introduction: The power of choosing your life on purpose. There comes a moment in every person's life when they quietly realize they are busy yet unfulfilled. They are moving yet not truly progressing. They are responding yet not consciously choosing. The days blur together, shaped by obligations, notifications, expectations, and routines that were never fully examined. In a world filled with constant noise and endless demands, it is incredibly easy to drift. It is easy to wake up, react, survive the day, and repeat the cycle tomorrow. But there is another way to live. There is a way to step out of autopilot and into awareness. That way is intentional living. To live with intention is to choose your life on purpose instead of living it by default. It means deciding who you want to be before the world tells you who you should be. It means aligning your daily actions with your deepest values, instead of allowing urgency to dictate your priorities. Intentional living is not reserved for the wealthy, the highly disciplined, or the exceptionally gifted. It is available to anyone willing to pause long enough to ask, is this the life I truly want to create? Many people live reactively. They wake up already behind. They check their phones before they check in with themselves. Their mood depends on emails, social media updates, or the behavior of others. Their schedule fills with requests before they decide what actually matters. Reactivity feels normal because it is common. But common does not mean fulfilling. When you live reactively, you are constantly responding to circumstances instead of shaping them. You may achieve milestones, yet still feel disconnected. You may be productive, yet not purposeful. Living deliberately is different. It begins with awareness. It requires noticing how you spend your time, where your energy goes, and what influences your decisions. It means recognizing that every small choice carries weight. The way you begin your morning affects your mindset. The conversations you tolerate influence your confidence. The habits you repeat quietly build your future. A life of intention is not built in dramatic leaps. It is built in subtle, consistent decisions that compound over time. One of the greatest misconceptions about intentional living is that it requires perfection. Many people hesitate to live deliberately because they believe it demands flawless discipline or rigid control. They imagine strict routines, color-coded calendars, and an inflexible lifestyle. But true intention is not about control, it is about alignment. It is not about squeezing every minute for productivity. It is about ensuring your minutes reflect what matters most. There will still be unpredictable days. There will still be mistakes, delays, and distractions. Intentional living does not eliminate imperfection, it gives it direction. Choosing your life on purpose also means accepting responsibility. This can feel intimidating at first. It is easier to blame circumstances, other people, or lack of time. Yet within your daily choices lies more power than you may realize. You may not control every event, but you always influence your response. You choose how long you dwell on setbacks. You choose which voices you allow to shape your self-image. You choose whether you act from fear or from clarity. These choices, repeated day after day, define the trajectory of your life. In a distracted world, clarity is a superpower. The modern environment competes relentlessly for your attention. Advertisements tell you what to want. Social media suggests who to be. News cycles amplify urgency and anxiety. Without intention, you can easily spend years chasing goals that were never truly yours. Living on purpose requires filtering out the noise. It demands asking yourself deeper questions. What truly matters to me? What kind of person do I want to become? What relationships do I want to nurture? What impact do I want my life to have? This book is an invitation to slow down long enough to answer those questions honestly. It will guide you toward clarity about your values, so that your decisions reflect who you are rather than who you feel pressured to be. It will help you build focus in a world designed to fragment your attention. It will encourage you to create stronger boundaries, so that your energy is protected rather than depleted. Most importantly, it will offer practical daily practices that turn intention from an inspiring idea into a lived reality. When you begin to live intentionally, something powerful shifts. Your days no longer feel accidental. You wake up with direction instead of dread. You begin to measure success not only by external achievements, but by internal alignment. Even ordinary tasks gain meaning because they connect to a larger purpose. Washing dishes becomes an act of caring for your environment. Exercising becomes an act of honoring your health. Saying no becomes an act of protecting your peace. Small actions take on greater significance because they are chosen consciously. Intentional living also transforms your relationships. When you are clear about your values, you communicate differently. You stop overcommitting to please others. You invest more deeply in the connections that truly matter. You listen more attentively because you are present. You become less reactive in conflict because you understand your priorities. As a result, your interactions grow more authentic and fulfilling. Perhaps the most empowering aspect of choosing your life on purpose is realizing that change begins now. You do not need a new year, a new job, or a new environment to start living intentionally. You begin by noticing. You begin by deciding that your time is too valuable to spend unconsciously. You begin by making one deliberate choice today that reflects the person you want to become. Over time, those choices accumulate. They form habits. Habits shape character. Character shapes destiny. This journey will not demand that you overhaul your entire life overnight. Instead, it will teach you to examine your patterns, clarify your direction, and adjust your daily actions. It will challenge you to trade distraction for focus, busyness for purpose, and pressure for alignment. Step by step, you will learn how to design your days so they reflect your deepest convictions. You deserve a life that feels meaningful, not merely manageable. You deserve days that energize rather than exhaust you. You deserve clarity instead of constant confusion. Living with intention is how you move from surviving your schedule to shaping your story. It is how you turn ordinary moments into building blocks of a life you are proud of. The power to choose your life on purpose has always been within you. The question is not whether you are capable of living intentionally. The question is whether you are ready to begin. Chapter 1: Defining what intention really means. There is a word that has been repeated so often in recent years that it risks losing its depth. That word is intention. It appears in motivational captions, productivity seminars, vision board workshops, and morning affirmations. It sounds powerful. It feels inspiring. Yet for many people, it remains vague and undefined. They say they want to live intentionally, but they cannot fully explain what that means in practice. They confuse it with being busy, with setting goals, or with trying harder. But intention is something deeper, something steadier, and something far more transformative than a passing wave of motivation. To understand intention, you must first separate it from the noise that surrounds it. Intention is not a trendy slogan. It is not a mood you feel at the start of a new year. It is not a burst of energy that pushes you to reorganize your life in one weekend. Intention is a deliberate commitment to live in alignment with what truly matters to you. It is the quiet decision to choose your actions consciously, instead of drifting through your days unconsciously. Many people mistake intention for goals. Goals are outcomes. They are destinations you hope to reach. You set a goal to lose weight, earn more money, build a business, write a book, or improve a relationship. Goals are valuable because they give direction. However, goals alone do not guarantee intentional living. You can achieve impressive goals and still feel disconnected from yourself. You can accomplish milestones and still feel empty if the process that led you there was rushed, misaligned, or driven by external pressure rather than internal clarity. Intention is different because it focuses on who you are becoming, not just what you are achieving. A goal says, "I want to run a marathon." Intention says, "I want to become someone who honors my health and discipline." A goal says, "I want a promotion." Intention says, "I want to grow, contribute meaningfully, and operate from excellence." Goals can be completed and checked off. Intention is ongoing. It shapes the way you pursue your goals and determines whether those goals actually reflect your values. Intention also differs from resolutions. Resolutions often emerge from dissatisfaction. They are promises made in moments of frustration or comparison. I will stop procrastinating. I will wake up earlier. I will be more confident. While resolutions can spark change, they often rely on willpower alone. When the initial excitement fades, the old patterns quietly return. Intention, on the other hand, is rooted in awareness. It is not fueled by shame but by clarity. It asks not only what you want to change but why. It anchors your actions in purpose rather than pressure. There is another modern confusion that clouds the meaning of intention: productivity culture. Many people equate intentional living with optimizing every minute. They believe being intentional means waking up at 5 in the morning, tracking every habit, and squeezing maximum output from every hour. While structure and discipline can support intentional living, productivity alone does not equal purpose. You can fill your schedule with tasks and still avoid the deeper questions about alignment and fulfillment. Intention is not about doing more, it is about doing what matters most. To truly define intention, you must examine the opposite of it. The opposite of intention is autopilot. Autopilot is waking up and scrolling through your phone without thinking. It is saying yes out of habit, rather than desire. It is following routines you never consciously chose. It is reacting to circumstances, without pausing to ask whether your response aligns with who you want to be. Autopilot feels easy because it requires little reflection. It allows you to move through life, without confronting uncomfortable truths. But autopilot also keeps you stuck in patterns that may no longer serve you. Pause for a moment and reflect on your own patterns. How do you typically begin your day? Is it rushed and reactive, or calm and deliberate? How do you make decisions about your time? Do you choose based on your values, or based on urgency and other people's expectations? When challenges arise, do you respond thoughtfully, or do you react emotionally and later regret it? These questions are not meant to judge you. They are meant to awaken you. Awareness is the first step toward intention. Self-awareness is the foundation of intentional living. Without it, you cannot see where change is needed. Self-awareness requires honesty. It asks you to observe your habits, beliefs, and routines without defensiveness. It invites you to notice how often you operate on assumptions that were never examined. Perhaps you believe success must look a certain way because you inherited that definition from your environment. Perhaps you believe rest is laziness because you were praised only for productivity. Perhaps you tolerate relationships that drain you because you fear disappointing others. These beliefs operate quietly beneath the surface, shaping your choices long before you consciously decide. Living intentionally means bringing those hidden patterns into the light. It means asking yourself why you do what you do. Why do you check your phone first thing in the morning? Why do you overcommit? Why do you avoid certain conversations? Why do you chase certain achievements? The answers may reveal fears, insecurities, or unmet needs. They may reveal dreams you buried because they felt impractical. This process can be uncomfortable, but it is also liberating. When you understand your patterns, you gain the power to change them. Intention begins in small moments. It is present when you pause before responding to a frustrating message and choose calm instead of anger. It is present when you decline an invitation because you need rest. It is present when you dedicate focused time to a meaningful task instead of multitasking through distractions. These choices may seem minor, but they accumulate. Over time, they reshape your character and your direction. Consider how many of your daily actions are unconscious. You drive the same route without thinking. You eat while distracted. You agree to plans automatically. You repeat habits because they are familiar, not because they are beneficial. When you slow down enough to notice these automatic behaviors, you create space for choice. And in that space, intention lives. Living with intention does not mean analyzing every second of your day to the point of exhaustion. It means developing a steady awareness that guides your decisions. It means asking yourself, does this align with the person I want to become? Over time, this question becomes a compass. It filters opportunities. It clarifies priorities. It strengthens your sense of identity. One of the most powerful shifts that occurs when you define intention clearly is the realization that you are not powerless. Even in circumstances you cannot control, you retain agency over your response. You may not control unexpected challenges, but you can choose resilience over despair. You may not control other people's opinions, but you can choose authenticity over approval seeking. You may not control the pace of external events, but you can choose patience and focus within your sphere of influence. Intention reminds you that your life is shaped not only by what happens to you, but by how you choose to engage with it. As you move forward, begin to notice where intention is currently missing. Notice the routines you follow without reflection. Notice the commitments that no longer align with your values. Notice the distractions that consume more time than you realized. Do not attempt to fix everything at once. Simply observe. Awareness is powerful on its own. When you see clearly, change becomes possible. Intention is a daily practice, not a one-time decision. It is the discipline of choosing your thoughts, your actions, and your direction repeatedly. It is the courage to live according to your values, even when it is inconvenient. It is the humility to adjust when you recognize misalignment. It is the confidence to define success for yourself rather than inheriting it from others. As you continue through this journey, remember that intentional living is not about constructing a flawless life. It is about constructing an aligned one. It is about ensuring that when you look back on your days, you can say they reflected what mattered most. It is about becoming conscious in a world that encourages distraction. It is about reclaiming authorship over your story. You have already taken the first step by seeking clarity. You are no longer satisfied with drifting. You are ready to define your direction. Intention is not something you find, it is something you choose. And every time you choose awareness over autopilot, purpose over pressure, and alignment over approval, you strengthen the foundation of a life lived on purpose. Chapter 2: Clarifying your core values. If intention is the compass of your life, then your core values are true north. Without them, you may move quickly, but you will not necessarily move in the right direction. You may accomplish impressive things, yet feel strangely disconnected from your own success. You may say yes to opportunities that look good on paper, but leave you exhausted in spirit. This quiet dissatisfaction often stems from one simple truth: you are living without clarity about what truly matters to you. Living intentionally requires more than motivation. It requires alignment. And alignment begins with identifying your core values. Your core values are the deeply held principles that guide your decisions, shape your behavior, and influence what you prioritize. They are not trends. They are not what sounds impressive in conversation. They are not what your family, friends, or society expect you to choose. They are the standards by which you measure your life when no one else is watching. They are the invisible drivers behind your strongest emotions, your proudest moments, and even your deepest frustrations. Many people have never taken the time to define their values. They assume they know what matters, yet their daily choices tell a different story. They say family is important, yet work consistently takes precedence. They claim health is a priority, yet exhaustion is their constant companion. They value honesty, yet avoid difficult conversations to keep the peace. This disconnect is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of unexamined living. When you lack clarity about your values, you default to the values of your environment. Culture begins to define success for you. Social media shapes your desires. Workplace expectations dictate your boundaries. You start pursuing goals because they are celebrated, not because they are meaningful. Over time, this creates internal tension. You may achieve what you were told to want, only to realize it does not satisfy you. Clarifying your core values is an act of reclaiming ownership over your life. It requires you to pause long enough to ask yourself powerful questions. What moments in my life have made me feel most alive? When have I felt proud of who I was becoming? What qualities do I deeply admire in others? What situations consistently drain me or frustrate me? The answers to these questions reveal patterns. Those patterns point toward your values. For example, if you feel most fulfilled when helping others grow, you may value contribution or service. If you feel energized when creating something original, you may value creativity. If you feel deeply unsettled when promises are broken, you likely value integrity. Your emotional responses are clues. They signal when something aligns with your inner standards and when something violates them. However, identifying values is only the first step. Many people create long lists of admirable words without narrowing them down. They say they value success, freedom, love, growth, family, wealth, impact, adventure, stability, and recognition. While all of these are positive, a life cannot be driven equally by everything. When everything is important, nothing is prioritized. To live intentionally, you must refine your values into a focused, actionable set. Imagine your values as the pillars holding up your life. If you try to build on too many pillars, the structure becomes unstable. Instead, identify the few principles that truly define you. These are the values you are willing to defend with your time and energy. These are the standards that guide your yes and your no. This process requires honesty. It may reveal uncomfortable truths. You may realize that some of your current commitments do not reflect your true values. You may notice that certain relationships persist out of habit rather than alignment. You may see that your schedule reflects urgency more than importance. Do not be discouraged by this awareness. It is not evidence of failure. It is evidence of awakening. Living out of alignment with your values has consequences. The first consequence is internal conflict. When your actions contradict your beliefs, you experience tension. You may feel irritable without understanding why. You may feel restless even when things seem fine on the surface. This discomfort is often your conscience signaling misalignment. Ignoring it may provide temporary relief, but over time it erodes your sense of authenticity. Another consequence is burnout. When you spend significant time pursuing things that do not align with your values, your energy drains quickly. Work feels heavier. Responsibilities feel more overwhelming. Even accomplishments feel hollow. On the other hand, when your actions reflect your values, you can endure challenges with greater resilience. Purpose fuels perseverance. Misalignment also impacts relationships. If you value growth but surround yourself with people who resist change, friction emerges. If you value honesty but avoid expressing your true thoughts, resentment builds. If you value peace but consistently overcommit, exhaustion affects your interactions. When you are unclear about your values, you struggle to communicate boundaries. When you are clear, your boundaries become natural extensions of who you are. Clarity transforms decision-making. Imagine being offered an opportunity that promises financial gain, but requires sacrificing family time. If family is one of your core values, the decision becomes clearer. Imagine being invited into a partnership that compromises your integrity. If honesty is a non-negotiable value, the answer reveals itself. Values simplify complexity. They reduce confusion because they provide a standard against which options are measured. Yet values must move beyond abstract ideals. It is not enough to say you value health, you must define what health looks like in action. It is not enough to say you value relationships, you must express that value through presence, listening, and time investment. It is not enough to say you value growth, you must pursue learning and embrace discomfort. A value that never influences behavior is merely a preference. This is where intentional living becomes practical. Once you identify your core values, begin connecting them to daily habits. If you value growth, schedule time for reading or skill development. If you value connection, create space for meaningful conversations. If you value balance, design your schedule to include rest. When values translate into action, they shape your environment. It is important to remember that values can evolve. As you grow, your priorities may shift. What mattered deeply in one season may become less central in another. This does not mean you were wrong before. It means you are evolving. The key is to revisit your values periodically and ensure they still reflect who you are becoming. Living with clarity about your core values brings confidence. You stop second-guessing every decision. You stop chasing every opportunity. You begin to trust your internal compass. You understand that saying no to what does not align creates space for what does. You no longer measure your life solely by external standards. Instead, you measure it by faithfulness to your principles. This clarity also strengthens your resilience. When challenges arise, you return to your values for direction. If you value perseverance, you continue despite setbacks. If you value compassion, you respond to conflict with empathy. If you value excellence, you refine your efforts rather than quitting. Values anchor you during uncertainty. They remind you who you are when circumstances shift. The journey of clarifying your core values is deeply personal. It cannot be rushed or copied from someone else. It requires reflection, courage, and a willingness to be authentic. But the reward is profound. When you know what truly matters to you, your life gains coherence. Your decisions feel lighter. Your relationships grow healthier. Your days carry intention. Imagine waking up each morning with a clear understanding of what you stand for. Imagine structuring your schedule around principles that energize rather than drain you. Imagine making decisions without the constant fear of missing out, because you know what aligns and what does not. This is the power of clarified values. You do not need to overhaul your entire life today. Begin by identifying the principles that resonate most deeply within you. Reflect on moments of pride and moments of regret. Notice what consistently brings you fulfillment and what consistently causes discomfort. Gradually refine your list until it feels true, focused, and actionable. Your core values are not just words. They are commitments. They are promises you make to yourself about how you will live. When you align your actions with those commitments, you step into a life of integrity and purpose. You stop drifting and start directing. You stop reacting and start choosing. Clarity is powerful. It gives shape to intention. It turns vague aspirations into meaningful direction. And as you continue this journey, remember that your values are the foundation upon which everything else is built. When the foundation is strong and clear, the life you build upon it becomes steady, authentic, and deeply fulfilling. Chapter 3: Creating a Vision for Your Life. Clarity about your values gives you a foundation, but vision gives you direction. Values tell you what matters. Vision tells you where you are going. Without vision, even the strongest values can remain dormant, like seeds never planted. You may know what you believe in, yet still drift through your days without a compelling picture of the life you are building. Intentional living requires more than awareness. It requires a clear and meaningful direction. Many people move through life, guided by expectations rather than vision. From an early age, you are exposed to definitions of success that are presented as universal truths. You are told what a good career looks like. You are shown what a happy relationship should resemble. You are subtly taught how much money you should earn, what milestones you should reach by certain ages, and what accomplishments deserve applause. These messages are not always harmful, but they are often inherited rather than chosen. If you are not careful, you can spend years pursuing a life that looks impressive from the outside but feels empty on the inside. You may achieve the promotion, buy the house, or collect the accolades, only to feel an unsettling question rising within you: is this truly what I wanted? That question is not a sign of ingratitude. It is a signal that your vision may have been shaped more by external pressure than internal conviction. Creating a vision for your life begins with reclaiming authorship. It requires you to step back from comparison culture and listen to your own voice. In a world driven by constant visibility, it is easy to measure your progress against curated snapshots of other people's lives. Social media amplifies highlights while concealing struggles. You see their achievements, their vacations, their celebrations, and you unconsciously begin adjusting your expectations. You chase milestones not because they resonate with you, but because they appear to validate others. Comparison is one of the greatest obstacles to authentic vision. It shifts your focus outward when it should be directed inward. It convinces you that fulfillment lies in imitation rather than alignment. But your life was never meant to be a replica of someone else's. You have unique values, unique strengths, unique experiences, and unique callings. Your vision must reflect that uniqueness. To build a meaningful vision, you must begin with imagination. Allow yourself to picture a life that feels aligned, not just impressive. Imagine waking up 5 or 10 years from now feeling deeply satisfied, not because everything is perfect, but because your days reflect your priorities. What does that life look like? Where are you living? How do you spend your mornings? What kind of work fills your time? Who surrounds you? How do you feel physically, emotionally, and spiritually? Do not rush this process. Vision is not about listing achievements, it is about crafting a direction. It is about understanding the kind of person you want to become, and the kind of impact you want to make. When you envision your future, focus less on titles and more on qualities. Instead of asking, "What job do I want?" ask, "What kind of contribution do I want to make?" Instead of asking, "How much money do I want?" ask, "What kind of freedom and security do I want to experience?" Instead of asking, "How do I want to be admired?" ask, "How do I want to be remembered?" Authenticity must be the foundation of your vision. A vision rooted in external validation will always feel fragile. It will require constant reinforcement from applause and approval. But a vision rooted in authenticity draws strength from within. It energizes you even when recognition is absent. It sustains you through challenges because it reflects who you truly are. As you shape your vision, consider the major dimensions of your life. Your relationships are one of the most significant areas. What kind of partner, friend, parent, or colleague do you want to be? What qualities do you want to cultivate in your interactions? Vision in relationships is not about controlling others, it is about defining your own character. Do you envision yourself as patient, attentive, supportive, and honest? Do you see yourself building connections rooted in respect and growth? These qualities are part of your vision. Your career or vocation is another essential dimension. Work occupies a substantial portion of your life, so it must align with your values. This does not mean every day will feel effortless or exciting. Every path includes challenges. But your overall direction should reflect meaning. Ask yourself what kind of problems you want to solve, what skills you want to develop, and what environment allows you to thrive. Your vision may include leadership, creativity, service, innovation, or stability. The specific path matters less than the alignment between your work and your values. Health is often overlooked in vision building, yet it shapes every other aspect of life. What is the state of your energy in the future you are imagining? Are you strong, active, and vibrant? Or are you constantly fatigued and overwhelmed? A meaningful vision includes physical and mental well-being. It includes habits that sustain rather than deplete you. It includes balance between ambition and rest. Personal growth must also be part of your vision. Who are you becoming? What skills, mindsets, and character traits are you developing? A stagnant life rarely feels fulfilling. Growth fuels purpose. Your vision might include continuous learning, emotional maturity, resilience, or spiritual depth. It might include overcoming limiting beliefs and stepping into greater confidence. Contribution gives your vision significance beyond yourself. At some point you may realize that achievement alone is not enough. There is a deep human desire to matter, to leave a positive imprint on others. Contribution does not require fame or grand gestures. It can be expressed through mentoring, generosity, kindness, creativity, or leadership. When your vision includes contribution, your life gains dimension. While clarity is essential, flexibility is equally important. A vision should guide you, not trap you. Life will unfold in ways you cannot predict. Opportunities will arise. Circumstances will shift. Your interest may evolve. A rigid vision can become a source of frustration if it leaves no room for growth. Instead, think of your vision as a compass rather than a map. It points you in the right direction, while allowing for exploration along the way. One of the greatest fears people face when creating a vision is the fear of choosing incorrectly. They worry that committing to a direction will close other doors. But living without vision closes far more doors than living with one. When you lack direction, you scatter your energy. You chase every possibility and master none. When you define a direction, you focus your efforts. You deepen your skills. You build momentum. Remember that vision is not about predicting the future perfectly. It is about shaping it intentionally. It is about deciding who you want to become, and taking steps toward that identity. The path may change, but your commitment to alignment remains constant. As you develop your vision, write it in a way that inspires you. Let it be detailed enough to feel tangible, yet open enough to allow growth. Describe the atmosphere of your life. Describe the values guiding your decisions. Describe the kind of energy you carry into each day. Read it regularly. Let it remind you of where you are headed. When your vision is clear, your decisions become simpler. You evaluate opportunities based on whether they move you closer to or further from your desired direction. You spend your time more intentionally. You tolerate less misalignment. You pursue growth with purpose. Intentional living is not about impressing others. It is about honoring your own calling. It is about crafting a life that feels meaningful when you are alone with your thoughts. It is about waking up with clarity instead of confusion. You are not here to drift through expectations inherited from others. You are here to design a life that reflects your deepest convictions. Creating a vision for your life is an act of courage. It requires you to think independently, to dream authentically, and to commit deliberately. The future is not something that simply happens to you. It is something you shape through daily choices, guided by a clear vision. When your vision aligns with your values, and your actions align with your vision, you create a life of intention. A life not driven by comparison or pressure, but by authenticity and purpose. The question is no longer what the world expects of you. The question is what you expect of yourself. When you answer that honestly and build your vision around it, you step into a future that is not only successful by external standards, but deeply fulfilling by your own. Chapter 4: Aligning Daily Habits with Long-Term Purpose. A powerful vision can inspire you. Clear values can ground you. But neither will transform your life without one essential bridge: your daily habits. Vision lives in the future. Habits live in the present. And it is in the present, in the ordinary rhythm of everyday life, that your future is quietly being built. Many people fall in love with big goals and bold dreams. They imagine dramatic breakthroughs and overnight change. They wait for the perfect moment to begin. Yet life rarely shifts through sudden leaps. It shifts through repetition. It shifts through small, consistent behaviors that compound over time. The difference between where you are and where you want to be is often found not in a single major decision, but in the patterns you repeat each day. Your habits are shaping you, whether you realize it or not. The way you spend your mornings influences your mindset. The way you manage your time determines your progress. The way you speak to yourself affects your confidence. Each small action seems insignificant in isolation, but together they form your identity. You do not become disciplined in a day. You become disciplined by choosing discipline repeatedly. You do not become healthy in a week. You become healthy through consistent care. If your long-term purpose feels distant or unclear in your daily life, the problem is rarely your vision. The problem is misalignment between your purpose and your routines. You may say you value growth, yet rarely create time to learn. You may envision strong relationships, yet allow distraction to dominate your conversations. You may desire peace, yet constantly overload your schedule. The disconnect is not a lack of desire. It is a lack of alignment. Aligning your daily habits with your long-term purpose begins with awareness. Before you can change your routines, you must observe them honestly. Consider how you currently spend your time. What fills your mornings? What occupies your evenings? What behaviors dominate your free moments? These patterns may feel automatic, but they are powerful. They either move you toward your vision or slowly pull you away from it. This process is not about self-criticism. It is about clarity. You cannot adjust what you refuse to examine. When you look at your routines objectively, you may notice habits that drain your energy without adding value. You may see time spent on distractions that leave you feeling empty. You may recognize patterns of procrastination that keep you stuck. These realizations are not evidence of weakness. They are opportunities for growth. Once you see your patterns clearly, the next step is intentional replacement. Many people attempt to eliminate habits through sheer force of will. They decide they will suddenly wake up 2 hours earlier, exercise daily, read for an hour, and eliminate all distractions at once. This intensity feels motivating at first, but it often fades quickly. Sustainable transformation is not built on intensity. It is built on consistency. Consistency may not feel glamorous, but it is powerful. A small habit repeated daily outweighs a grand effort repeated occasionally. 10 minutes of focused practice each day builds more skill than a single exhausting session once a month. A brief daily check-in with a loved one strengthens connection more than sporadic grand gestures. Small actions repeated faithfully create momentum. When aligning your habits with your purpose, begin with manageable changes. If your vision includes physical vitality, start with a short daily walk or mindful eating rather than an extreme overhaul. If your purpose includes personal growth, begin with a few pages of reading each morning. If you desire deeper relationships, commit to being fully present during conversations, even for a few minutes at a time. These small adjustments may feel modest, but they reshape your identity over time. Identity is the hidden force behind lasting change. When you act consistently in alignment with your purpose, you begin to see yourself differently. You no longer view yourself as someone who tries to be disciplined. You become someone who practices discipline. You no longer see yourself as someone who wants to grow. You become someone who invests in growth. Each aligned habit reinforces your self-image. And your self-image influences your future choices. It is important to remember that intention is practiced in ordinary moments. It is not limited to milestone achievements or dramatic turning points. It is present when you choose to focus instead of multitask. It is present when you choose patience instead of irritation. It is present when you prepare for tomorrow instead of postponing responsibility. These moments may seem small, but they define the quality of your life. There will be days when your motivation fades. There will be seasons when progress feels slow. This is where commitment becomes essential. Purpose does not require perfection. It requires persistence. Missing a day does not erase your growth. What matters is returning to alignment as quickly as possible. Do not allow temporary lapses to become permanent patterns. As you cultivate purposeful habits, be mindful of your environment. Your surroundings influence your behavior more than you may realize. If distraction is always within reach, focus becomes difficult. If unhealthy options are convenient, discipline weakens. Adjusting your environment to support your vision is an act of wisdom, not weakness. Create spaces that encourage the person you want to become. Community also plays a significant role in alignment. Surround yourself with individuals who respect your goals and values. You do not need constant accountability, but you do need encouragement. When you are connected to people who value growth and integrity, your own commitment strengthens. Energy is contagious. Choose to be in environments that elevate, rather than diminish your focus. One of the most empowering truths about daily habits is that they return control to you. Long-term purpose can feel overwhelming when viewed all at once. But when broken down into daily practices, it becomes approachable. You may not control every circumstance, but you control your next choice. You control whether you act in alignment today. Imagine the cumulative effect of 1 year of aligned habits. Imagine reading consistently, exercising moderately, nurturing relationships intentionally, and protecting your focus daily. The transformation would be undeniable. Not because you made one dramatic change, but because you honored your purpose repeatedly. Your life is not shaped by what you intend to do someday. It is shaped by what you choose to do today. Each morning offers an opportunity to reinforce your vision. Each evening offers a moment to reflect and recalibrate. When your habits reflect your values and your values reflect your vision, your life begins to feel coherent. You experience progress not just externally, but internally. Aligning daily habits with long-term purpose requires patience. It requires discipline. It requires humility to adjust when you drift. But the reward is profound. You wake up knowing that your actions matter. You rest at night knowing that your day contributed to something meaningful. You do not need to wait for a major breakthrough to experience transformation. It is already available in the quiet consistency of your routines. The power lies not in extraordinary effort, but in faithful repetition. Each small, intentional act is a vote for the person you are becoming. Your purpose deserves more than admiration. It deserves action. And that action begins in the ordinary rhythm of today. When you align your habits with your vision, you stop wishing for change and start building it. Step by step, choice by choice, you become the architect of your future. Chapter 5: Designing Intentional Mornings and Evenings. The way you begin and end your day quietly shapes everything in between. Long before major decisions are made, before challenges arise, before conversations unfold, your mindset has already been influenced by how you entered the day. Likewise, the way you close your day determines the quality of your rest, your reflection, and your readiness for tomorrow. If you desire to live with intention, you must learn to guard the gates of your day. Morning and evening are not just segments of time. They are anchors. They are opportunities to reset your focus and strengthen your direction. Many people wake up already behind. The alarm sounds, and within seconds they are checking notifications. Emails, headlines, social media updates, and messages rush in before their own thoughts have a chance to form. The mind immediately shifts into reaction mode. Urgency replaces clarity. Comparison replaces confidence. Stress replaces calm. Without realizing it, the tone of the day has been set by external forces. Living intentionally requires a different approach. Instead of beginning the day by reacting, you begin by deciding. You create space before the noise. Even a few quiet moments can transform your mental state. When you wake up and pause, when you breathe deeply and reflect before engaging the world, you remind yourself that you are in control of your focus. You reclaim ownership over your attention. Designing an intentional morning does not require a complicated routine. It requires purpose. The goal is not to impress anyone with elaborate rituals. The goal is to cultivate clarity. You might begin by asking yourself simple but powerful questions. What matters most today? Who do I want to be in my interactions? What mindset will serve me best? These reflections align your actions with your values before distractions attempt to redirect you. Planning is another essential element of an intentional morning. When you outline your priorities, you reduce the likelihood of drifting into reactive busyness. You distinguish between what is urgent and what is meaningful. Instead of filling your day with whatever appears first, you focus on what aligns with your long-term purpose. This clarity reduces anxiety because you know where your energy should go. Mindset setting is equally important. Every day brings uncertainty. Challenges will arise. People will test your patience. Circumstances may not unfold as expected. When you intentionally choose your mindset in the morning, you prepare yourself for resilience. You remind yourself that you can respond with calm rather than frustration, with focus rather than distraction, with gratitude rather than complaint. This preparation does not eliminate difficulty, but it strengthens your response. An intentional morning also includes caring for your body. Your physical state influences your emotional state more than you may realize. Movement, hydration, and nourishment are not luxuries, they are foundations. Even a brief walk or a few minutes of stretching can awaken your energy and sharpen your focus. When you honor your body at the start of the day, you reinforce the belief that your well-being matters. It is important to design a morning routine that feels sustainable. Many people attempt to adopt elaborate systems that quickly become overwhelming. They set alarms hours earlier than necessary, fill their mornings with too many tasks, and eventually abandon the effort entirely. Intentional living is not about extremes. It is about consistency. A simple, steady routine practiced daily is far more powerful than an ambitious plan practiced occasionally. Evenings are just as significant as mornings. If mornings prepare you for action, evenings prepare you for reflection and renewal. Yet many people end their days in the same reactive manner in which they began them. They scroll mindlessly, replay frustrations without resolution, or collapse into bed without processing their experiences. This lack of closure carries stress into the next day. An intentional evening creates emotional and mental stability. It allows you to review your day with honesty and grace. Reflection is not about self-criticism. It is about growth. Ask yourself what went well. Notice moments where you acted in alignment with your values. Celebrate small wins. Then consider where you could improve. Did you lose patience? Did you allow distractions to dominate? Did you neglect something meaningful? These observations are not judgments. They are lessons. Gratitude plays a powerful role in evening rituals. When you consciously acknowledge what you are thankful for, you shift your perspective. Even difficult days contain moments of goodness. A kind word. A small accomplishment. A lesson learned. Gratitude softens frustration and strengthens resilience. It reminds you that progress is not measured only by perfection, but by awareness. Intentional evenings also include preparation. A few minutes spent organizing tomorrow's priorities can reduce morning stress significantly. When you wake up knowing your direction, you move with confidence. Preparation transforms chaos into clarity. It allows you to rest peacefully, because you trust that tomorrow has already been considered. Sleep itself becomes more restorative when preceded by intention. When your mind is cluttered with unresolved thoughts, rest feels shallow. But when you close your day with reflection, gratitude, and preparation, you create mental closure. You signal to your mind that it is safe to relax. Over time, this consistency improves not only your productivity, but your emotional health. The beauty of designing intentional mornings and evenings is that they create rhythm. Life will always contain unpredictability. Schedules will shift. Responsibilities will increase. But when your days are anchored by consistent beginnings and endings, you cultivate stability within change. These routines become grounding practices that remind you who you are and where you are headed. Personalization is essential. Your routine must reflect your personality, energy levels, and responsibilities. A parent with young children will have a different structure than someone living alone. An early riser will approach mornings differently than a night thinker. What matters is not copying someone else's formula, but creating a rhythm that aligns with your life. As you refine your mornings and evenings, pay attention to how they make you feel. Do you feel rushed or centered? Overwhelmed or prepared? Drained or grateful? Adjust accordingly. Intentional living is dynamic. It evolves as your circumstances change. What worked in one season may need revision in another. Stay flexible while remaining committed to clarity. Over time, you will notice a powerful shift. Your days will no longer feel accidental. You will enter them with awareness and leave them with reflection. Emotional reactions will soften because you have practiced mindset preparation. Stress will decrease because you have prioritized what matters. Confidence will increase because you see consistent alignment between your values and your actions. Designing intentional mornings and evenings is not about controlling every hour. It is about honoring the transition points that influence everything else. These bookends frame your day. They shape your perspective. They strengthen your discipline. They nurture your growth. Imagine waking each day with clarity instead of confusion. Imagine ending each night with gratitude instead of regret. Imagine carrying a steady sense of direction through the highs and lows of daily life. This is not a distant dream. It begins with simple, consistent choices. Your life is built one day at a time. And each day begins and ends with an opportunity to choose intention. Guard those moments. Shape them thoughtfully. Let them anchor your purpose. When you design your mornings and evenings with care, you create a life that feels steady, meaningful, and deeply aligned with who you're becoming. Chapter 6: Mastering Focus in a Distracted World. Your life moves in the direction of your focus. What you consistently give your attention to will eventually shape your thoughts, your habits, your relationships, and your future. Attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess, yet it is also one of the most aggressively targeted. Modern life is designed to compete for your focus. Notifications flash. Screens glow. Headlines demand urgency. Entertainment streams endlessly. The world does not simply invite your attention, it pursues it. If you do not intentionally guard your focus, it will be fragmented. And fragmented focus leads to fragmented results. You may feel busy all day, and yet accomplish very little that truly matters. You may move from task to task without depth. You may consume endless information without reflection. Over time, this constant switching weakens your ability to concentrate, to think deeply, and to act with purpose. Intentional living requires mastering your focus, because attention is the gateway to action. You cannot build meaningful habits without sustained concentration. You cannot nurture strong relationships while constantly distracted. You cannot pursue long-term goals if your mind is scattered across 100 small interruptions. Focus is not merely a productivity tool. It is a life tool. Digital distraction is one of the most significant challenges of this era. Devices have become extensions of daily life. They offer convenience, connection, and opportunity. Yet they also introduce constant interruption. Every notification triggers a small shift in attention. Even when you resist responding immediately, your mind has already been diverted. Over time, this repeated disruption trains your brain to expect stimulation. Silence begins to feel uncomfortable. Stillness feels unfamiliar. The problem is not technology itself. The problem is unconscious consumption. When you use technology deliberately, it can serve your vision. When you use it reactively, it begins to shape your behavior. You open your phone to check one message, and emerge 20 minutes later unsure how you arrived there. You sit down to complete an important task, yet find yourself switching tabs repeatedly. The result is not only lost time, but diminished mental clarity. Overstimulation compounds the issue. Bright screens, rapid information, and constant updates flood your senses. Your brain becomes accustomed to high-speed input. As a result, slower, deeper tasks feel more difficult. Reading a thoughtful book requires patience. Engaging in meaningful conversation requires presence. Working on a long-term project requires sustained effort. Without deliberate practice, your ability to remain focused weakens. Recognizing this challenge is not a reason for discouragement. It is an invitation to reclaim control. Focus can be trained. Attention can be strengthened. But it requires boundaries. Boundaries with technology are acts of self-respect. They are not extreme rejections of modern life. They are intentional decisions about how you engage with it. Begin by observing your current patterns. When do you reach for your phone? How often do you check notifications? How frequently do you interrupt yourself while working? Awareness reveals where boundaries are needed. Consider designating specific times for checking messages and social platforms, instead of allowing them to interrupt your day at random. Silence non-essential notifications. Create physical distance between yourself and your device during focused work sessions. These small adjustments reduce mental fragmentation. They create space for deeper thinking. Protecting your focus also requires clarity about priorities. When everything feels urgent, nothing receives full attention. If you begin your day without identifying what matters most, you are more likely to drift toward whatever demands immediate response. Intentional focus starts with asking yourself a simple question each morning: what deserves my best energy today? Choose one or two key priorities that align with your long-term vision. Commit to giving them uninterrupted attention before turning to less significant tasks. This practice reinforces alignment between your daily actions and your broader purpose. It shifts you from reactive mode into proactive mode. Deep focus is a skill that must be cultivated. It requires removing distractions, setting clear intentions, and allowing yourself to become fully immersed in a single task. At first, this may feel challenging. Your mind may resist stillness. You may feel tempted to switch activities. This discomfort is natural. It reflects the adjustment from constant stimulation to concentrated effort. When you persist, something powerful happens. Your work improves. Your creativity expands. Your efficiency increases. Tasks that once felt overwhelming become manageable because you are no longer dividing your attention. Deep focus produces momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Rest is another essential component of mastering focus. Constant busyness without recovery leads to mental fatigue. When your mind is exhausted, distraction becomes more appealing. Intentional breaks, moments of quiet and time away from screens restore clarity. Paradoxically, stepping away from work often enhances productivity when you return. It is also important to recognize the emotional aspect of distraction. Sometimes you avoid deep focus not because of external interruptions, but because of internal discomfort. Meaningful work often requires confronting uncertainty or vulnerability. It may require facing the possibility of failure. Distraction becomes a convenient escape. When you notice this pattern, respond with compassion rather than judgment. Acknowledge the discomfort and gently redirect your attention back to your task. Focus strengthens identity. When you consistently honor your priorities, you begin to see yourself as disciplined and capable. Each completed task reinforces trust in yourself. Over time, this self-trust becomes one of your greatest assets. You no longer rely solely on fleeting motivation. You rely on the evidence of your own consistency. Your relationships also benefit from focused attention. In conversations, presence communicates respect. When you listen fully without glancing at your phone, you deepen connection. When you engage thoughtfully rather than distractedly, you build trust. Mastering focus is not only about productivity, it is about honoring the people and opportunities in front of you. The truth is simple yet profound. Attention is limited. You cannot give full focus to everything simultaneously. Each yes to distraction is a no to depth. Each moment spent scrolling mindlessly is a moment not invested in growth. This does not mean eliminating all leisure or entertainment. It means choosing consciously rather than consuming compulsively. Intentional living requires vigilance. The world will continue to compete for your attention. New platforms will emerge. Notifications will multiply. Urgency will intensify. But you possess the power to decide what deserves your focus. You can choose to cultivate stillness in a noisy world. You can choose depth in a culture of speed. Imagine what becomes possible when your attention is concentrated rather than scattered. Imagine completing meaningful projects with excellence. Imagine engaging fully in your relationships. Imagine ending your days feeling accomplished rather than drained by distraction. This transformation begins not with drastic measures, but with deliberate choices. Guard your focus as you would guard a precious resource, because it is one. Train your mind to return to what matters. Create boundaries that protect your energy. Prioritize depth over speed. When you master your attention, you reclaim your direction. Your future is shaped by what you repeatedly focus on. Choose wisely. Protect your mind. Align your attention with your purpose. In doing so, you step into a life that is not dictated by distraction, but directed by intention. Chapter 7: Setting Boundaries That Protect Your Energy. Living with intention is not only about what you choose to pursue. It is also about what you choose to decline. Every time you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. You are allocating your time, your energy, your focus, and your emotional capacity. If you are not deliberate about where those resources go, you will eventually find yourself depleted, resentful, and disconnected from your own priorities. Boundaries are the invisible lines that protect your energy. They define what you are responsible for and what you are not. They clarify what you will accept and what you will not tolerate. They are not walls designed to isolate you from others. They are guardrails designed to keep you aligned with your values. Many people struggle with boundaries because they misunderstand them. They associate boundaries with selfishness or harshness. They fear that saying no will damage relationships. They worry that asserting their needs will make them appear difficult. As a result, they overextend themselves. They agree to commitments they cannot sustain. They absorb responsibilities that are not theirs. They sacrifice rest and clarity in an attempt to maintain approval. At the root of this struggle is often people-pleasing. The desire to be liked and accepted is deeply human. You may have learned early in life that approval brought safety or affirmation. You may have discovered that accommodating others avoided conflict. Over time, this pattern becomes automatic. You say yes before fully considering the cost. You volunteer when you are already overwhelmed. You apologize for needing space. But people-pleasing comes at a price. When you consistently prioritize others' expectations over your own values, you begin to lose yourself. Resentment quietly builds. Exhaustion becomes constant. Your ability to show up fully diminishes because you are running on empty. Ironically, the very relationships you try to preserve through overcommitment may suffer because you are no longer present or authentic. Intentional living requires courage. It requires the courage to disappoint others occasionally in order to remain aligned with your purpose. It requires the courage to say no without over-explaining. It requires the courage to trust that healthy relationships can withstand honest communication. Consider the cost of overcommitment. When your schedule is packed beyond capacity, your focus becomes fragmented. You rush from one responsibility to the next without depth. You lose the ability to prioritize what truly matters. Important tasks are squeezed into leftover moments. Rest becomes an afterthought. Over time, your physical and emotional health decline. Overcommitment also erodes quality. When you try to do everything, you rarely do anything exceptionally well. Your energy is divided. Your creativity is stifled. Your enthusiasm fades. By saying yes to too much, you inadvertently reduce the impact of what you could have done with greater focus. Boundaries restore balance. They allow you to channel your energy toward what aligns with your values and vision. They create space for rest, reflection, and growth. They ensure that your yes is meaningful because it is not given lightly. Setting boundaries begins with self-awareness. You must first identify where your energy is being drained unnecessarily. Reflect on situations that leave you feeling exhausted or resentful. Notice patterns in your work environment, your friendships, and your family dynamics. Where do you feel obligated rather than inspired? Where do you say yes out of fear rather than desire? Fear of disappointing others is one of the strongest obstacles to healthy boundaries. You may imagine negative reactions before they even occur. You may assume that declining a request will damage trust. Yet disappointment is not the same as rejection. Someone may feel temporarily disappointed when you say no, but that does not mean they value you less. In fact, consistent boundaries often increase respect. When people understand your limits, they learn how to engage with you more effectively. Clear communication is essential. Boundaries do not need to be dramatic or confrontational. They can be expressed calmly and confidently. You might say that you are unable to take on additional responsibilities at this time. You might explain that you need time to focus on existing commitments. You might clarify that certain behaviors make you uncomfortable. The key is to speak from your own perspective rather than attacking others. Confidence grows with practice. The first few times you assert a boundary may feel uncomfortable. You may second-guess yourself. You may feel tempted to retract your statement to ease tension. But each time you honor your limits, you strengthen your self-respect. You reinforce the belief that your time and energy matter. Boundaries in the workplace are particularly important. Professional environments often reward availability and responsiveness. You may feel pressure to answer messages immediately or to accept every project offered. While dedication is admirable, constant accessibility can lead to burnout. Establishing reasonable limits around work hours, communication expectations, and workload protects your productivity and well-being. In relationships, boundaries foster authenticity. When you hide your needs to maintain harmony, connection becomes superficial. Honest conversations about expectations and limits create deeper trust. You allow others to know you fully, rather than presenting a curated version designed to avoid conflict. Healthy relationships are not built on constant agreement, they are built on mutual respect. Personal commitments also require boundaries. Your time is finite. Every invitation, every opportunity, every request competes for it. Before agreeing to something new, pause and consider whether it aligns with your values. Ask yourself whether you have the capacity to give it your best. If the answer is no, decline graciously. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it is responsible. One of the most powerful shifts occurs when you begin to view boundaries as an act of stewardship. Your energy is a resource entrusted to you. It fuels your purpose. It sustains your relationships. It supports your growth. When you allow that resource to be drained indiscriminately, you compromise your ability to live intentionally. There will be moments when boundaries are tested. Someone may push back. Circumstances may tempt you to revert to old patterns. In those moments, return to your values. Remember why you are protecting your energy. Remember that every boundary you uphold strengthens your alignment. It is also important to recognize that boundaries are not static. As seasons change, your capacity may shift. What you could handle comfortably in one phase of life may become overwhelming in another. Stay attentive to these changes. Adjust your limits accordingly. Intentional living requires flexibility as well as firmness. As you develop the habit of setting boundaries, you will notice a transformation in your daily experience. Your schedule will feel lighter because it reflects deliberate choices rather than impulsive agreements. Your relationships will feel more authentic because they are grounded in honesty. Your work will feel more focused because your energy is not scattered. You will also discover a deeper sense of peace. When you know that your yes is intentional and your no is confident, you release the constant tension of trying to please everyone. You stop measuring your worth by external approval. You begin to measure it by integrity. Setting boundaries does not mean isolating yourself. It means engaging with others from a place of clarity rather than compulsion. It means choosing connection without sacrificing alignment. It means recognizing that you cannot pour endlessly from an empty cup. Your energy is precious. Your time is limited. Your focus is powerful. Guard them wisely. Say yes to what aligns with your vision. Say no to what drains your purpose. Speak with honesty. Stand with confidence. Trust that healthy relationships will adapt. When you protect your energy, you create space for intention to flourish. You reclaim ownership of your life. You step into a rhythm that is sustainable, purposeful, and deeply aligned with who you are becoming. Chapter 8: Cultivating Mindfulness and Presence. In a world that constantly urges you to move faster, consume more, and react instantly, presence can feel like a quiet rebellion. Yet if intentional living is about choosing your life on purpose, then mindfulness is the muscle that makes that choice possible. You cannot choose wisely if you are not aware. You cannot align your actions with your values if you are disconnected from your inner world. Presence is not about escaping responsibility or retreating from ambition. It is about engaging with your life so fully that your choices become conscious rather than automatic. Mindfulness is often misunderstood as something mystical or reserved for silent retreats and perfectly still mornings. In truth, mindfulness is far simpler and far more powerful. It is the practice of paying attention on purpose. It is noticing your thoughts without immediately believing them. It is feeling your emotions without being controlled by them. It is observing your environment without rushing to judge it. When you cultivate presence, you begin to see your life as it is, rather than as your fears or assumptions interpret it to be. Most people live in one of two places, the past or the future. The past carries regret, replayed conversations, old wounds and memories that shape self-image. The future carries anxiety, anticipation, worry, and imagined outcomes that may never occur. Meanwhile, the present moment, the only place where life actually unfolds, goes largely unnoticed. Intentional living requires returning to this moment again and again, because this moment is where your power resides. When you are present, you notice your internal patterns. You become aware of how quickly your mind jumps to conclusions. You see how certain situations trigger old reactions. You begin to recognize habits of thought that have quietly shaped your decisions for years. This awareness is not meant to shame you. It is meant to free you. You cannot change what you do not see. Presence shines a light on unconscious behavior, and that light creates choice. Emotional regulation is one of the greatest gifts mindfulness offers. Without awareness, emotions can feel overwhelming and immediate. Anger flares and words spill out before you can stop them. Anxiety tightens your chest and dictates your choices. Disappointment clouds your perspective and makes you question your progress. But when you practice presence, a small but powerful gap begins to form between stimulus and response. In that gap lives your freedom. Instead of reacting instantly, you learn to pause. Instead of suppressing your feelings, you allow yourself to acknowledge them. You name what you are experiencing without dramatizing it. You breathe. In that simple act of noticing and pausing, you reclaim control over your behavior. The emotion may still be there, but it no longer commands you. You respond rather than react. This shift may seem subtle, but over time it transforms relationships, career decisions, and personal growth. Slowing down is essential to cultivating presence. The pace of modern life can make stillness feel uncomfortable. Many people fill every spare moment with noise, scrolling, streaming, multitasking, because silence exposes the chatter of the mind. Yet that chatter is not your enemy. It is information. When you slow down, you begin to hear your true concerns, your unmet needs, and your deeper desires. You become aware of what energizes you and what drains you. You notice when you are operating from fear instead of confidence. Slowing down does not mean becoming unproductive. In fact, it often leads to greater effectiveness. When you are fully present with a task, you complete it with greater clarity and fewer mistakes. When you are fully present in a conversation, the other person feels heard and valued. When you are fully present with yourself, you make decisions that align with your values rather than impulsive urges. Simple grounding practices can anchor you in the present moment throughout your day. Something as basic as focusing on your breath for a few minutes can reset your nervous system. Noticing the physical sensations in your body can draw your attention away from racing thoughts. Observing your surroundings, the sound of birds, the texture of your desk, the warmth of sunlight, brings you back to the here and now. These practices are not complicated, but their impact is profound when done consistently. Presence also deepens self-awareness. When you observe your thoughts regularly, you begin to see patterns. You may notice a tendency towards self-criticism. You may recognize how often you assume the worst before any evidence appears. You may discover that certain environments increase stress, while others foster calm. This awareness empowers you to make adjustments. You can challenge limiting beliefs. You can change environments. You can interrupt negative cycles. Mindfulness strengthens emotional intelligence, which is essential for intentional living. Emotional intelligence involves understanding your own emotions and recognizing them in others. It allows you to navigate conflict with maturity. It enables you to empathize rather than judge. When you are present, you listen more carefully. You pick up on subtle cues in tone and body language. You respond thoughtfully, instead of defensively. Improved decision-making naturally follows. When your mind is scattered, decisions are rushed and reactive. When you are grounded, you consider long-term consequences. You evaluate options through the lens of your values. You notice whether a decision is driven by fear, ego, or genuine alignment. Presence does not eliminate uncertainty, but it helps you move forward with clarity rather than chaos. Mindfulness also transforms your relationship with productivity. Instead of measuring your worth by how much you accomplish, you begin to value the quality of your engagement. You realize that being busy is not the same as being purposeful. Presence helps you distinguish between meaningful work and frantic activity. You become more selective about where you invest your energy. There will be days when your mind feels restless despite your efforts. Presence is not about achieving a perfectly calm state at all times. It is about returning again and again to awareness. Some days that return will feel easy. Other days it will feel like a struggle. Both experiences are part of the practice. The key is consistency, not perfection. As you cultivate mindfulness, you may notice subtle shifts in how you experience life. Meals taste richer when you are not distracted. Conversations feel deeper when you are not mentally elsewhere. Achievements feel more satisfying because you are fully present to appreciate them. Even challenges become opportunities for growth because you approach them with awareness rather than avoidance. Living with intention requires courage, and presence strengthens that courage. When you are aware of your internal landscape, you are less afraid of it. You stop running from uncomfortable emotions and begin learning from them. You recognize that feelings are temporary visitors, not permanent identities. This understanding builds resilience. You trust yourself more because you know you can handle what arises. Presence connects you to gratitude. When you slow down enough to notice what is already good, appreciation naturally emerges. You see the small blessings that once went unnoticed. Gratitude shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance. It reminds you that even while striving for growth, there is beauty in the current moment. Cultivating mindfulness is not about withdrawing from ambition or ignoring responsibilities. It is about engaging more deeply with both. It is about making decisions from clarity rather than compulsion. It is about living each day with awareness of your thoughts, emotions, and actions. This awareness creates alignment, and alignment creates peace. Intentional living is built on thousands of small conscious moments. Every time you pause before responding, every time you breathe instead of react, every time you choose awareness over autopilot, you strengthen your capacity for presence. Over time, these moments accumulate into a life that feels grounded and authentic. You do not need to overhaul your entire routine to begin. Start with a few minutes of intentional breathing. Notice your thoughts without judgment. Pay attention to your environment. Bring your full attention to the next conversation you have. Each act of awareness is a step toward a more intentional life. Being present does not mean your life will be free of challenges. It means you will meet those challenges with clarity and composure. It means your decisions will reflect your values rather than your impulses. It means you will experience your life as it unfolds, instead of watching it pass by in a blur. The present moment is where your power lives. It is where your choices take shape. It is where your intentions become actions. When you commit to cultivating mindfulness and presence, you are not just improving your focus. You are reclaiming ownership of your life. And that is the essence of living with intention, every single day. Chapter 9: Navigating Setbacks with Purpose. Living with intention does not mean that life will be easy. In fact, intentional living often amplifies the challenges you face, because the stakes feel higher when your actions are aligned with your values and your vision. Even the most disciplined, focused, and mindful individuals encounter setbacks. Plans fail, circumstances change, relationships fracture, and dreams stall. What distinguishes those who thrive from those who flounder is not the absence of obstacles, but the approach taken when life refuses to follow the script. Setbacks can feel jarring. They interrupt momentum and shake confidence. They provoke frustration, disappointment, and even self-doubt. When something goes wrong, an opportunity slips away, a project fails, a personal relationship suffers, it is natural to feel overwhelmed. The mind instinctively searches for causes and often lands on harsh self-criticism. I should have done better. I should have known. I am not capable. Yet this response, while understandable, is neither productive nor reflective of your capacity for growth. Intentional living requires reframing setbacks. A setback is not an endpoint. It is not a reflection of your worth or your vision. It is information. It is a signal that something in your approach, timing, or expectations needs attention. When you begin to see setbacks as opportunities for recalibration rather than defeat, you reclaim your agency. You shift from being a passive recipient of circumstance to an active participant in your life. The first step in navigating setbacks with purpose is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It does not mean giving up on your goals or minimizing the significance of the challenge. Acceptance means acknowledging reality without resistance, without embellishment, and without denial. You recognize what has happened and allow yourself to feel the emotions that accompany it. This honesty is the foundation of clarity. You cannot respond effectively if you are clinging to wishful thinking or drowning in frustration. Once you have accepted the situation, reflection becomes essential. Ask yourself with curiosity rather than judgment, what can be learned? What factors contributed to this outcome? What was within your control and what was not? Reflection turns a painful experience into a teacher. It helps you identify patterns, blind spots, and misalignments. Even failure contains information that, when examined carefully, can guide your next steps. Resilience is cultivated through this process. Resilience is not the ability to avoid pain. It is the ability to persist and adapt despite it. Resilient individuals do not pretend setbacks are inconsequential. They confront the discomfort and use it to strengthen themselves. They recognize that temporary disruption does not negate long-term purpose. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to test commitment, sharpen skills, and refine strategy. Adaptability is equally important. Life is unpredictable. Plans are made but circumstances change. Opportunities arise and vanish. Relationships evolve. Health fluctuates. Intentional living does not require rigid adherence to a fixed path. It requires flexibility in navigating change while staying aligned with your core values and vision. Adaptability is the skill that allows you to pivot without losing direction. It enables you to modify tactics while maintaining purpose. One of the most powerful tools for navigating setbacks is perspective. Consider the way you frame the challenge in your mind. Do you view it as a catastrophe, an injustice, or evidence of personal failure? Or do you see it as a momentary obstacle, a signal to pause and adjust, and a chance to learn? Perspective shapes emotional response. It influences decision-making. A narrow, fear-based view constricts options. A broader, growth-oriented view expands them. Choosing perspective is a conscious act that restores agency. Setbacks also test patience. The natural impulse is to rush solutions, to reclaim momentum immediately, to force progress. Yet some challenges require time, observation, and careful deliberation. Patience allows clarity to emerge. It prevents impulsive decisions that might exacerbate the situation. It encourages measured, thoughtful action. In many cases, the path forward is revealed not through speed, but through reflection and steady adjustment. Maintaining purpose during disruption is vital. Purpose is the compass that guides you when the terrain is uncertain. When external circumstances shift, your vision and values remain your anchor. They remind you why you started, what you are building, and what truly matters. Purpose prevents you from being derailed by temporary setbacks. It keeps your energy focused on meaningful outcomes rather than on reactive, short-term fixes. Emotional regulation is an essential companion to resilience and purpose. Setbacks often provoke intense emotions: frustration, disappointment, fear, even grief. These emotions are natural, but if they dominate your response, they can cloud judgment and drive reactive behavior. Mindfulness and presence, cultivated earlier in intentional living, become crucial here. They allow you to observe your emotions without being consumed by them, to feel without overreacting, and to choose actions aligned with long-term goals rather than immediate impulses. Setbacks are also opportunities to practice humility. They remind us that control is limited, that unpredictability is inherent in life, and that growth often emerges through discomfort. Humility does not diminish ambition, it deepens perspective. It encourages reflection, collaboration, and a willingness to learn. When approached with humility, setbacks become teachers rather than punishers. Connection with others can provide support and clarity during setbacks. Sharing struggles with trusted individuals does not indicate weakness. It allows you to gain insight, perspective, and encouragement. Others may offer solutions you had not considered, or simply provide the reassurance that your response to difficulty is normal and human. Healthy relationships are strengthened not only in times of ease, but also in moments of adversity. It is also important to distinguish between temporary setbacks and permanent derailment. Many obstacles feel final in the moment, yet over time they reveal themselves as part of the journey. A project failure, a missed opportunity, or a relationship challenge does not negate your progress. It is a waypoint, not the destination. Recognizing this distinction reduces panic and encourages thoughtful navigation. Action planning follows reflection. Once you have processed the setback and understood its lessons, the next step is to determine practical adjustments. What changes can you make to prevent similar challenges in the future? What skills, resources, or habits need reinforcement? What priorities require re-evaluation? Action turns insight into progress. It transforms disappointment into forward motion. Even setbacks that feel entirely outside your control can yield growth. Life's unpredictability teaches resilience, adaptability, and creativity. It forces you to confront assumptions, expand problem-solving skills, and develop patience. Over time, individuals who navigate challenges with intention often emerge stronger, more self-aware, and more capable of handling future disruptions. Setbacks, when approached with purpose, are not hindrances, they are catalysts. Gratitude can coexist with setbacks. Even in difficult moments, aspects of life remain that are worthy of appreciation. Gratitude shifts focus from loss to perspective. It does not erase difficulty but tempers it, with acknowledgement of what remains stable, meaningful, or beneficial. This balance supports emotional resilience and encourages constructive response rather than despair. Consistency in alignment with values provides stability during turbulent times. When you have cultivated habits, boundaries, focus, and presence, you possess internal structures that support you through disruption. These practices act like roots in a storm. They do not prevent the storm, but they stabilize the tree. When external circumstances shift, your internal alignment allows you to respond with composure and clarity. Finally, setbacks remind us of the iterative nature of intentional living. Progress is rarely linear. Life is a series of cycles, adjustments, and recalibrations. Challenges are part of the terrain, not exceptions to the rule. By expecting and planning for setbacks, you reduce fear and increase preparedness. You understand that each obstacle contains both difficulty and opportunity. Navigating setbacks with purpose is ultimately an exercise in agency. You acknowledge reality without surrendering your vision. You process emotions without being controlled by them. You reflect without judgment. You adjust without abandoning your values. You act with intention despite uncertainty. In doing so, you transform adversity into a tool for growth. The test of intentional living is not in smooth sailing. It is in navigating turbulence with integrity, courage, and focus. When setbacks arrive, as they inevitably will, you will not be derailed. You will respond with clarity, guided by purpose. You will learn from each experience, recalibrate your approach, and continue moving forward. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to strengthen your resilience, deepen your insight, and reaffirm your commitment to the life you are intentionally building. Setbacks are inevitable. Defeat is optional. With presence, reflection, purpose, and action, every disruption can serve as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. By approaching adversity as an integral part of intentional living, you cultivate not only the ability to survive challenges, but to thrive because of them. In the face of uncertainty, you maintain alignment. In the midst of failure, you discover growth. And through every trial, your life moves steadily, intentionally, toward the vision you have chosen. Chapter 10: Becoming the Architect of Your Days. Living intentionally is not a one-time effort, a fleeting commitment, or a set of occasional practices. It is a way of being, a lifestyle rooted in conscious choice, reflection, and purposeful action. By the time you reach this stage in your journey, you have explored the core principles of intentional living, defining your purpose, clarifying your values, creating a vision, aligning your habits, designing mornings and evenings, mastering focus, setting boundaries, cultivating presence, and navigating setbacks. All of these lessons converge into a single truth: your life is the product of your daily decisions. You are not merely experiencing time, you are shaping it. You are not a passive passenger on the currents of circumstance. You are the architect of your days. To become the architect of your life is to shift from reacting to designing. It is to replace autopilot routines with conscious creation. It is to approach each day with awareness, to consider each decision as a building block of your future, and to recognize that small choices compound into a life of profound impact. This chapter is about integrating all you have learned into a sustainable, evolving framework that allows you to live with intentionality every day, not occasionally. At the heart of this transformation is identity. The most powerful change comes not from temporary behaviors, but from seeing yourself differently. You are not someone who tries to live intentionally. You are someone who decides intentionally. You are not someone who hopes to make better choices. You are someone who claims ownership of your actions, your energy, and your time. Identity precedes action. The more you internalize that you are a deliberate decision maker, the more naturally your behaviors align with your values and vision. Becoming the architect of your days begins with clarity about what matters most. Everything you do in a day consumes finite resources: attention, energy, and time. Intentional living is about prioritizing what aligns with your vision and values, while minimizing what does not. It requires constant awareness and evaluation: which commitments advance your goals and which merely occupy space? Which interactions energize and which deplete? Which habits reinforce your purpose and which distract from it? By asking these questions regularly, you ensure that each day is a deliberate reflection of your priorities. A personal daily intention framework is a practical way to operationalize this approach. This framework is not a rigid schedule, but a guide that anchors your day in purpose. It begins each morning with clarity, a few minutes spent reflecting on your vision, reaffirming your values, and setting a central focus for the day. This focus is not a to-do list of tasks, it is a guiding principle that informs your choices. Perhaps your intention is to practice patience, to create meaningful connections, to make progress on a long-term project, or to approach challenges with courage. By naming this intention at the start of the day, you direct your energy toward what truly matters. Throughout the day, the framework acts as a compass. It reminds you to return to awareness when distraction arises. It encourages you to make decisions aligned with your values rather than with fleeting impulses. It reinforces boundaries, helping you say no to what detracts from your purpose and yes to what advances it. Even in moments of unpredictability, this framework provides stability, a consistent reference point that guides behavior regardless of circumstance. The evening portion of the framework is equally critical. Reflection and review solidify the lessons of the day and inform adjustments for the next. This is the time to ask yourself, where did I act intentionally? Where did I drift? What choices reinforced my values, and which ones diverted me? Reflection is not self-judgment, it is self-guidance. It allows you to observe patterns, celebrate progress, and course-correct without guilt or regret. Over time, this nightly ritual becomes a feedback loop that strengthens alignment between your actions and your vision. As you establish this rhythm, habits naturally align with your purpose. The behaviors that once required effort and discipline become expressions of your identity. Waking early, prioritizing meaningful work, practicing mindfulness, protecting boundaries, and engaging fully with relationships are no longer tasks to check off. They are how you live because they are who you have become. Identity-driven habits are sustainable because they are rooted in self-concept rather than fleeting motivation. Becoming the architect of your days also requires adaptability. Life is fluid. Seasons change. Responsibilities evolve. Challenges arise unexpectedly. Intentional living does not mean rigidity. It means resilience and flexibility within a framework of values and vision. Your daily intention framework can evolve with your circumstances. Some days may require more focus on rest. Others may demand more energy toward growth or connection. The key is to remain anchored in purpose, while responding thoughtfully to life's dynamics. Another essential element is self-compassion. Designing your days does not imply perfection. Even the most intentional individuals encounter distraction, fatigue, or error. Setbacks are part of the journey, not a failure of character. The architect of their life recognizes this truth. Missteps are opportunities to learn and recalibrate. Each evening, each reflection, each pause is a chance to realign with your values and continue building the life you desire. Energy management is central to this approach. Intentional living is not about cramming more tasks into each day. It is about directing your energy toward the people, projects, and experiences that matter. By observing where your energy is strongest, You can schedule your day around focus, creativity, and emotional resilience. By acknowledging moments of fatigue and planning for recovery, you prevent burnout and sustain momentum over the long term. Energy, after all, is a finite resource, and its careful allocation determines the quality of your days. Integration of all previous lessons is what transforms intentional living from theory into practice. Your vision sets the destination. Your values define the path. Habits build the infrastructure. Mornings and evenings create the rhythm. Focus preserves direction. Boundaries protect energy. Mindfulness ensures awareness. Setbacks become stepping stones rather than obstacles. Each element reinforces the others, creating a life where purpose, clarity, and fulfillment are not occasional experiences but consistent realities. Perhaps the most profound aspect of being the architect of your days is the empowerment it brings. Ownership over your time and choices generates confidence. Decision-making becomes deliberate, rather than reactive. Life feels less like a series of accidents, and more like a consciously designed journey. This empowerment is liberating. It reduces anxiety, increases resilience, and amplifies satisfaction. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You are shaping them with intention. Long-term commitment is essential. Intentional living is not a sprint, it is a marathon. It is the cumulative effect of thousands of small decisions, made consistently over time. Each day you live aligned with your values is another brick laid in the structure of your life. Each choice to act deliberately strengthens your identity. Each reflection and recalibration ensures the integrity of your ongoing design. Over months and years, the compounded effect is a life of depth, meaning, and purpose. This commitment also invites continuous growth. Becoming the architect of your days does not mean stagnation. It is a dynamic practice that evolves as you evolve. Your vision may expand, your values may refine, and your priorities may shift. By maintaining awareness, reflecting regularly, and adapting thoughtfully, you ensure that your life remains a true expression of your authentic self, rather than a static imitation of past choices or external expectations. The journey of intentional living culminates in freedom. When you are conscious of your choices, aligned with your values, and proactive in designing your days, you are liberated from the passive drift that ensnares many. You wake with purpose, engage with clarity, navigate challenges with resilience, and close each day with reflection and gratitude. You live as a creator, rather than a consumer of life. You live deliberately, fully, and meaningfully. Ultimately, becoming the architect of your days is a daily practice. It is the culmination of awareness, reflection, and action. It requires courage to make choices that align with your values, patience to sustain habits over time, and compassion to forgive yourself when mistakes occur. It demands vigilance in protecting your focus and energy, resilience in the face of setbacks, and presence in the midst of life's distractions. Your days are not predetermined. They are not fixed by circumstance, expectation, or habit. They are yours to design. Each morning offers the blank canvas of possibility. Each decision is a stroke of intention. Each action builds the architecture of your life. Over time, this consistent practice creates a reality that is coherent, purposeful, and deeply aligned with who you are and who you are becoming. When you fully embrace this role, the architect of your days, you recognize that your power lies not in external conditions but in internal mastery. You understand that intentional living is not about controlling life, but about consciously shaping your responses, choices, and priorities. You live with clarity, act with purpose, and move through life with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that each day, however ordinary it may seem, is a building block of their extraordinary life. The essence of intentional living is this: You are not waiting for life to happen to you. You are designing it moment by moment, choice by choice. You are the planner, the decision maker, and the executor. You hold the pen that writes your story, the brush that paints your reality, and the hands that shape the structure of your days. To live intentionally is to recognize that time is your most precious material, and that every day is an opportunity to create a life of depth, purpose, and fulfillment. You are not merely passing through life. You are designing it, and in doing so you become the person you were always meant to be. Your future is built on the foundation of today. Own it. Shape it. Live it. Each day is your blueprint, and you are the architect. Conclusion: a life built on conscious choices. As you reach the end of this journey through the principles of intentional living, it is essential to pause and reflect on what you have discovered. The path we have explored together is not about sudden transformations, grand gestures, or a checklist of achievements that will instantly define a perfect life. Intentional living is subtler, quieter, and profoundly more powerful than that. It is about the accumulation of small, conscious choices made day after day, moment after moment. Each decision, no matter how ordinary it may seem, contributes to the architecture of your life. In truth, the life you are striving to build is not shaped primarily by monumental actions, but by the repeated deliberate attention you give to your thoughts, behaviors, and priorities. The most important lesson to carry forward is that intention is a practice, not a destination. It is not something you achieve once and then forget, nor is it a badge of perfection you wear. It is a way of living that requires consistent engagement. You practice intention when you pause to reflect before reacting, when you choose your focus amid distraction, when you honor your boundaries, and when you align your actions with your values. These practices are not a temporary fix. They are the daily threads that weave a life of meaning and alignment. It is easy to fall into the trap of believing that intentional living demands a complete life overhaul before any progress is visible. You might feel that you need to change every habit, rethink every relationship, or abandon all routines that do not fit your vision. But this is neither realistic nor necessary. The power of intention lies in starting where you are, accepting your current circumstances, and making small deliberate choices that move you closer to alignment. One thoughtful action today, one moment of awareness, one conscious decision, compounds over time into profound transformation. Conscious choices begin with self-awareness. When you are attentive to your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, you notice where life has been running on autopilot. You observe where your energy has been spent unconsciously, where your focus has been hijacked by distraction, and where your actions may not align with your deeper values. This awareness is not about judgment or self-criticism, it is about illumination. You cannot navigate your life intentionally if you do not first understand where you currently stand. Awareness creates clarity, and clarity is the foundation of meaningful choice. From clarity comes action. Living intentionally requires courage, the courage to make decisions that honor your priorities, even when it feels uncomfortable or inconvenient. You will be tested. Some choices may disappoint others, challenge your comfort zones, or demand sustained effort. Yet each choice aligned with your values strengthens your sense of agency. Each moment you choose deliberately, rather than reactively, reinforces your identity as a person who lives with purpose. Over time, these choices create a momentum that carries you forward, making intentional living not just an occasional effort, but a natural expression of who you are. Consistency is another cornerstone of intentional living. Life is filled with distractions, interruptions, and unanticipated challenges. The world is constantly vying for your attention, your energy, and your time. In this environment, intention cannot be an occasional decision, it must be a steady practice. The most impactful changes are rarely dramatic, they are cumulative. Small, repeated actions, reflecting on your day, prioritizing your focus, protecting your energy, practicing presence and responding thoughtfully to setbacks, build resilience, clarity, and alignment. The daily commitment to act consciously is what transforms ordinary days into a life of meaning. Boundaries and energy management are critical in maintaining this consistency. Saying no to what drains you is just as important as saying yes to what nurtures your vision. Life is finite, and your energy is a limited resource. Intentional living asks you to protect both with discernment. When you choose where to invest your attention, when you decide what commitments are aligned with your values, and when you create space for rest, reflection, and presence, you ensure that your actions are purposeful rather than reactive. Boundaries are not a restriction on your life, they are a safeguard for your freedom, your focus, and your capacity to thrive. Mindfulness and presence are the tools that allow conscious choices to remain grounded in reality. In the rush of daily life, it is easy to move on autopilot, reacting to stimuli without thought or reflection. Presence interrupts this cycle. It allows you to pause, observe, and respond with awareness. By cultivating mindfulness, you create a space between impulse and action. In that space, choice exists. You are no longer at the mercy of habit or external pressures. You are empowered to act in alignment with your values and vision. Even setbacks, challenges, and unexpected disruptions serve your journey when viewed through the lens of intention. Life is inherently unpredictable. Plans fail, circumstances shift, and disappointment occurs. Intentional living is not about avoiding these moments, but about responding to them consciously. Each setback is an opportunity for reflection, growth, and recalibration. When you approach adversity with clarity, resilience, and purpose, you transform disruption into a teacher, failure into feedback, and challenge into momentum. Your capacity to navigate difficulty without losing alignment is one of the most profound expressions of intentional living. As you integrate all of these principles, clarity of values, vision, habits, focus, boundaries, mindfulness, and resilience, you begin to inhabit a new identity. You are no longer someone who drifts through life, waiting for circumstances to dictate your path. You are a deliberate decision-maker, the architect of your days. Each morning becomes a fresh canvas, each choice a brushstroke, and each action a building block of a life that reflects your deepest priorities and truest self. The beauty of intentional living is that it is adaptable. Life evolves, circumstances shift, and you grow. What felt right in one season may need adjustment in another. The framework you develop, your daily practices, routines, boundaries, and mindset, can and should evolve alongside you. Intentional living is not rigid. It is responsive, flexible, and resilient. It allows you to remain anchored in your values while navigating the natural ebb and flow of life. Remember, this is a journey, not a race. Progress is not measured by perfection, speed, or comparison to others. It is measured by alignment, awareness, and consistency. Each day that you act with intention, each choice that reflects your values, and each moment that you live with presence is a victory. Over time, these small daily victories accumulate into a life that is deeply meaningful, balanced, and authentically your own. Begin now, wherever you are. You do not need to wait for a perfect moment, an ideal schedule, or a complete life overhaul. Intention begins in the present moment, with the choice to act deliberately right now. Take a breath. Notice your thoughts. Decide your focus. Protect your energy. Engage with presence. Make choices that honor your values. Begin with small, manageable steps, and trust that they will compound over time into profound transformation. Ultimately, living with intention is a declaration of ownership. It is a commitment to yourself and your life. It is a refusal to drift aimlessly or to be swayed entirely by external pressures. It is an embrace of the responsibility and privilege that comes with conscious choice. By choosing each day with awareness, clarity, and purpose, you create a life that is aligned, fulfilling, and unmistakably your own. A life built on conscious choices is not perfect. It will still include challenges, uncertainty, and imperfection. But it will be real. It will be yours. Every thought, decision, and action will reflect the person you are becoming, the person who lives deliberately, who acts with purpose, and who moves through life as an empowered architect of their own days. This is the ultimate promise of intentional living, that by consistently choosing your path, even in small ways, you create a life of depth, meaning, and fulfillment. Every moment is an opportunity. Every day is a canvas. Your life is waiting for the choices only you can make. Begin now. Choose deliberately. Act consciously. Build a life that feels aligned, meaningful, and authentically, undeniably yours. Thank you for reading this book. I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to leave us a review. TM Light. Disclaimer. This book was created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. While every effort was made to ensure the accuracy and relevance of the content, readers should note that this cannot be considered professional advice. Readers are encouraged to apply their own judgment and consult experts where needed.